Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're focusing in a little bit more in depth on a viewer question, and that is looking at the impact of narcissistic parenting, how it affects the legacy in the family, how it affects the children, and to furthermore look at its impact on family values. And I want to focus here more in depth on the narcissist attribute or manipulation tactic of perfectionism. Perfectionism is a hallmark narcissistic trait where, out of the grandiosity, the feelings of being better than everyone else, having the superiority, feeling also that lack of empathy, we do see a perfectionist very difficult to attain expectation that the narcissist will have of others in their environment. And the perfectionism that is lived by can be a positive drive. Of course, it creates the constant and never constant need for improvement, constant never-ending improvement, of self, of morals, of values. But there can be an excruciating perfectionism, a grandiose perfectionism, a very unrealistic expectation of others, really where others then are taken advantage of to meet narcissistic needs. So it's not about just improving in and of itself, or trying to perfect one's abilities or perfect one's skills. It becomes perfectionistic. Which is very difficult and hard to obtain and very inhuman. You've heard of perfectly imperfect. Really, if you can really begin to embrace that, I think it really helps to liberate a lot of emotional energy if you can live perfectly imperfect and stop having to be in control of others to attain perfectionism. I think what really happens is that the perfectionism that we see in narcissists is coming from their need to control others to meet their perfectionistic standards, grandiose thoughts, fantasies, if you will. There's sometimes the bliss of being able to be perfectly imperfect, accepting yourself for who you are unconditionally, is very liberating, and that's really where you get to really live the life, live the dream, live the fantasy, is when you are really perfectly imperfect, and not holding these very high, so difficult to obtain perfectionist standards, which are controlling of others, and furthermore expecting them to respond in ways that are mirroring of your narcissistic quality versus unconditional love, acceptance, gratitude, and humility, which is where all freedom really exists, and true success is obtained because you're then existing in the state where it's not all about you, but it's really where the sum of the parts become greater than the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts, which is when you have collaboration and accepting of people and not having to control them. So we see this very much a narcissistic need to control others and to manipulate others, and especially to perfectionist standards. And this, as John Bradshaw furthermore elaborates in this narcissistic perfectionist model, they are always right in everything that they do. So the narcissist cannot see the error of their ways. They cannot see the hindrance that they and how they deter other people. They don't see how they hinder others' development. They're not able to see how they hurt, and they do this relentlessly. So this perfectionism never, ever, ever lets up. It's very insidious and very tedious to be in a relationship with a perfectionist narcissist. It's very one-directional, and you have to only reflect their needs. You can't, in essence, be yourself. So in very severe narcissism, really the others exist only as an extension of themselves. And if you are not an extension of them in reflecting to them their narcissistic needs, then you are shamed, you are imperfect, you are less than, you are you are shamed, you are scapegoated because you're not mirroring back their narcissistic needs. So it's a very two-dimensional relationship with a narcissist, especially a perfectionist at that. And it's very interesting because John Bradshaw describes this perfectionism as really a fear and avoidance of the negative, which is their organizing principle of life. Members of the family live according to an externalized image. So it's as if the family doesn't have its nucleus. There's an external image with which the family is living by, and no one ever measures up. So as you can always see, it's like you're constantly chasing the wind. You can never live as a family. You can never feel at home. You can never feel content. You're never measuring up. But to be constantly measured, I think, again, here we have this living in accordance with an externalized image. So the image is a yardstick or a tuning fork, which is always outside of you, which is putting this pressure. You have to live this way. And it's not an internalized internal drive of really where your talents are originating from, which is the true education, which is pulling out of your talents versus having an externalized image with which you're supposed to live according to. I think that's the whole evolution. I think that's the transformation that I hope humanity is going to. I think we're really much on the tipping point of that, where, it's not an externalized image of how you're supposed to be. Yes, you can have role models. Yes, you can have mentors. Yes, you can have things that you aspire to, but it's when this externalized image of who you're supposed to be as a family is not originated from within you. It's almost like the fire of passion, of cohesiveness is not there. The family warmth is not there. That looking out for each other, that true familial bond of what they call blood is stronger than water, really almost doesn't even hold true in a narcissist family value. It's as if your flesh and blood is not of strength. So it's very contradictory. It's very confusing. It's very dysfunctional. And in the less than human family, there are no rules. The children have no structure to guide them. So we see, again, that there's this devoid of structure or devoid of function, because form equals function, as they teach you in science. And looking at, furthermore, this perfectionism can be, as we see in adult children of alcoholics or families where their parents have been alcoholic and blacking out, not able to parent the children, not to be there as an emotional support, a guiding. We oftentimes see children who become overly responsible, overly perfectionistic, overly accountable, and really then living perfectionist in and of their own right to compensate for the shame, hurt that they feel for their parents, their alcoholic parents. So they have to overperform. They have to become overly responsible. They have to become overly perfectionistic and overachievers to overcompensate for alcoholism or that shame-based drug dysfunction family in the parental set. So we see this going both ways. So there is a cause and effect here. And as soon as you can sort of disconnect from that toxic cause, and I know that this is intensive stuff, but as soon as you can disconnect from that toxic source and come instead from a healthy source and disconnect from that toxic story, which was your story, As long as you can separate from the mind-body connection to that dysfunctional story, you can create your story anew, if that makes sense. So you might need to think about that a couple times and realize how this perfectionist can really be the source of a lot of anguish and dissension in families where narcissism is trying to prevail. But if you're on the healing road, I really do believe that the healing, health, and true function is going to prevail in your mindset and in your family once you're learning how really dysfunctional a narcissist family and organization can be. Once you realize that, you can then turn the corner and really become almost the counter growth to that narcissism and have really quite a bit of substance, value, empathy, and success. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.